open space, the final frontier. These are the explorations of scientists, sociologists, and AI technologists at Maynooth University. Our mission: to create autonomous drones, air traffic flight management, and seek out new solutions for our civilization. To boldly go where no drone has gone before. Experienced knowledge set free at our open days, November 23rd and 24th.
Maynooth University. No bounds.
Welcome into the Sportsmemo NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. Happy Friday to you out there. We got our first guest up, Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, Teddy. Excited to talk about the top half of the NFL Every Game on the Board card here, and we'll have Robbie Vino close us out. But Teddy, first game up, 4-5-1, 4-5-2, Carolina at Detroit. Looks like Carolina 4 or 4.5 on the road, 49.5 the total.
Yeah, I mean, there's no love for the Lions in the betting markets right now, and that's putting it mildly. And I think it's fully understandable why. You look at Detroit, over the last 3 ball games, blown out by Seattle, blown out by Minnesota, blown out by Chicago. All right, and this is a team that had been major money winners prior. They covered, 5 in a row before this current skid. But that was then. This is now. And the way Detroit's gone down. Remember Kerryon Johnson was having all that success early on. I mean, the running game's been literally non-existent. The offensive line's been blown off the ball. Matthew Stafford's been set. After the 10-sack effort against Minnesota, he was pressured just as much last week at Chicago. And when your quarterback gets sacked 16 times in 2 games and your defense produces only 2 sacks during that same span, it's a problem. So you can certainly understand why there's not a lot of love for the Lions here. And, of course, there's a Panthers team that they're coming off a debacle, and an understandable debacle. They had to play. They'd won, they win 3 in a row going to that Thursday night game, and all of them big wins. And then they had to travel on the short week, and we've seen the teams that have to travel on the short week. I mean, the game plan hasn't been there. And that was certainly the case when they went to Pittsburgh and got lit up in that contest. Extra time to prepare off a bad loss, and again, you talk about the pass rush. Carolina's got one, 8 sacks in their last 2 games. That's, before that they had 4 sacks against the Eagles and 6 sacks against the Cowboys. They can get after the quarterback. So I can understand. I'm surprised there hasn't been more Panthers money. A game that opened 3.5 or so, sitting at 4.5 right now. I would expect this number to continue to sneak upwards between now and kickoff. Circle the wagons time or not for Detroit. I don't know if the Lions have a circle the wagons in them, and neither do the betting markets right about now.
Teddy, let me ask you about Detroit, because you bring up the 3 losses in a row, both straight up and ATS. But October 21st-ish at Miami was their last win, and they dominated that game, Teddy. I was actually at that game, and they were pushing Miami around. The score, it was actually worse than that score indicates, 32-21 win at Miami. What exactly happened to this Lions team, in your opinion?
They ran for 248 yards against the Dolphins. Since that time, their biggest is 76 yards in a game. And some of that, Miami's defense is no good. But I certainly, there's a couple issues going on behind the scenes. I don't think that the Golden Tate trade played out well in the locker room. I don't necessarily think when they fired, and Patricia fired the special teams coordinator, one of the holdovers from the Jim Caldwell era. I don't know that went over particularly well in the locker room, but more than any other factor, and you can go back to the Barry Sanders era. The Lions haven't had a dominant offensive line or even a good offensive line at any point in the last 25 years. And when you have bad offensive line play, you can't run the football, your QB's under pressure, and the offense doesn't work, and the defense wears down. And it's not like the Lions' defense was very good to begin with. But when the offense isn't moving the football, those defensive weaknesses become magnified.
All right, good stuff, Teddy. We got 4-5-3, 4-5-4. Dallas at Atlanta, 48.5 the total, with the Falcons laying 3 across the board at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday.
I didn't know you went to games, by the way.
That was the one NFL game I've been to in the last 2 years. Granted, I was in Costa Rica last year, and then I went to an FAU Louisiana Tech game on Friday night. I feel like you got to go every now and again.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I go see UNLV play, and certainly when the tournament, the college basketball tournaments are in town, I like to go see them when I get the chance. But I can't even. I don't think I've seen an NFL game. I don't even know how long. NFL Sundays. I'm sitting in my personal sports book every single week.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. To get an edge in this business, I feel anyway. On Saturdays and Sundays, be at home in front of multiple TV screens. But
kudos, man. Kudos for getting out there. Because it's something we should probably do more. But for NFL Sundays, I'm sure when the Raiders move to town, I'll probably get to a game sooner or later. But I'll take the under on how many Raiders games I get to. Dallas and Atlanta, fascinating matchup. Really is a fascinating matchup between these two teams from a spot standpoint. All right, and it stands out like a sore thumb as a bad spot for Dallas. Here are the Cowboys coming off a big road win at Philly. Everything broke right for them. Next week, another divisional opponent. Short week, Thanksgiving at home, a huge game for the Cowboys against the Redskins. And in between, here's this trip to Atlanta. And that's, when you have a coach like Jason Garrett, you worry about these type of spots, for sure. That being said, Dallas can get stops and Atlanta can't. And we saw that so clearly last week. The Falcons had a good game against the Redskins. The Redskins have no downfield weapons. Last week against the Cleveland team that has downfield weapons, it was the same old Falcons defense. Unable to stop the run, gashed by big plays, lit up through the air. Baker Mayfield had his best game. I guess since the best game I've seen him have since the opener against the Jets against that Falcons defense. And Chubb's picking off 92-yarders. And Atlanta, when you lose multiple Pro Bowlers on a defense, and there's not that much you can do, and the Falcons defense is going to be what it is. Dallas is a defense, and last week with Amari Cooper catching the football and someone who needs to be double covered, all of a sudden Zeke Elliott's got room to run, and Scott Linehan's not an idiot; he's a genius again.
Yeah.
So spot-wise, miserable spot for Dallas. Matchup-wise, I think the matchups work well for the Cowboys. So it's one of these playoff elimination games, and the Falcons, they're averaging 32 points a game at home. If they approach or exceed that total, Dallas is going to be in trouble because that's not offense isn't built to score in the 30s. But it's a type of game where side and total may well be related. Falcons and an over correlates, Cowboys and under correlates, at least a little bit in my mind.
Guys, Teddy obviously knows his NFL. He's hitting 64% year to date, and on sides, even better, 19-8, 70% in the NFL. He's also got a college football play tonight. He's hitting near 60% on the college gridiron, and using coupon code Teddy9 at checkout, you can get his ESPN2 winner tonight, Friday night action. Using the coupon code Teddy9, you get it for only $9 on sportsmemo.com. Teddy, we got 455, 456, Cincinnati at Baltimore. Not seeing many posted lines here. You want to hit this game quickly?
Yeah, I was making a case for the Ravens. Look, I don't want any part of the Bengals. Okay, I mean, what happened? And again, I understand that it was New Orleans, and New Orleans is a different animal. But Cincinnati's defense is on pace to be the single worst defense in NFL history when it comes to yards allowed. And the last three games, they give up 45 to KC, 34 to Tampa, 51 to New Orleans. They're not getting stops right now, which is a problem against anyone. And, of course, Baltimore off the bye week. This is their circle the wagons game. They're playing against a team that's ahead of them in the standings. But Flacco's downgraded to doubtful. Okay, I might have taken a shot with Lamar Jackson here. But Lamar Jackson missed practice yesterday. He was sick. I don't want the QB making his first start that's missing practice 3 days before kickoff. There's a chance we could see RG3 behind center for Baltimore. He had a real good preseason, but and I don't know where the odds makers are going to price this. If it's Flacco, if it's Jackson, if it's RG3, there is a significant difference. So my initial lean was Baltimore, but given the uncertainty surrounding this game, I don't know that I get to the window. Less than a touchdown, I might look at them.
Teddy, we got an NFC North battle here. 44.5 the total. Minnesota at Chicago. And it looks like the Bears laying 2.5 at home, seeing a couple threes, mostly 2.5s across the board.
Yeah, it's not really a split line. This is motely, you're right, it's a 2.5 line. There were threes at the open, and the wise guys came in and grabbed the Vikings off the bye. But plus the points, plus the field goal. So there's a lot of things to consider here. First is, which of these two defenses is better? Vic Fangio's done some pretty impressive things, despite the fact they didn't have Khalil Mack for half the season. Now they got Mack, and man, I mean, Football Outsiders says the Bears ranked number one defensively from a yards per play standpoint. They're near the top of the league. I mean, all the advanced metrics really like Chicago's defense, a lot more than Minnesota's defense. And yet, it's the Vikings coming off the bye. It's the Vikings getting guys back. I thought Everson Griffin made a difference upon his return to Minnesota's lineup. And Mike Zimmer kind of called out his defense a little bit during the bye, saying, we haven't been a good defense this year. So, if the Bears' defense is all that, big edge for Chicago, and especially if Minnesota's isn't. But if what we've seen is not what we're going to see defense-wise, edge towards the Vikings. And you compare the QBs, and this is a key element in this handicap for me. Close game, fourth quarter, two strong defenses, maybe two elite defenses. Who do you want with the football in his hand? Do you want Kirk Cousins or do you want Mitch Trubisky?
Who do you want, Teddy?
I don't want Mitch Trubisky. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is the way to go. Safer choice, anyway.
Well, Cousins makes it. I mean, Trubisky's success. He's had a handful of good games this year. They've come and gone. Cousins is certainly the more consistent QB. Cousins is certainly the QB that has the history of being able to engineer game-winning drives in the fourth quarter against good defenses, even on the road. And I think that's a legitimate edge for Minnesota in a game where, the straight-up winner likely to be the point spread winner. Last but not least, when you look at strength of schedule issues, the Bears, they haven't exactly been beating up on the elite teams in the NFL. Chicago's last 4 wins have come against, what do we got? The last 4 wins have come against the Bucks, the Jets, the Bills, and the Lions. That's not Minnesota. I'll just leave it like that.
Good stuff, Teddy. We got 459, 460, a later start here, 1:25 Pacific kickoff. Philadelphia at New Orleans. Looks like 56 the total, so points projected in this one with, mostly 8s. New Orleans laying in the Big Easy, -8.
Yeah, boy, when you look at the Saints' aggregate home field edge over the course of the year and over the course of years, it's not necessarily that good. They have a solid home field. It's not spectacular. It's a home field that, if you're grading out their ATS results over the last 5 years, you're going to give them a 3, a standard 3 in the NFL. When you take a closer look at the Saints and you say, hey, let's not look at the aggregate numbers, let's not do the easy stuff, let's dig. You see a consistent pattern for the Saints in the Sean Payton era. Slow starts. First 2 games of the year at home, they've been consistent money losers. A lot of times slow finishes in December, resting starters, you have issues with injuries, The middle of the season, October and November, this home field's been as strong as any in the NFL, maybe stronger. And we've certainly seen it this year. It's been they struggled against Tampa, they struggled against Cleveland their first 2 games, blowout over Washington. Rams team, again, they only won by 10. They led that game by 3 touchdowns, blew the lead, and then still won by margin. It has been a powerful home field. And obviously with Philadelphia here and then Atlanta on deck, they have a chance to get a couple more home wins and covers. It's a strong home field. And, of course, when you look at the Saints right now, where are the weaknesses? You have Drew Brees having another MVP season. They lost their starting guard this last week, which could matter. The Eagles' strength is on their defensive line, but Philadelphia continues to get gashed in the secondary. It's a secondary that hasn't been healthy and hasn't been effective. While Carson Wentz has been throwing, his 2 touchdown passes each of his last 6 ball games. Golden Tate giving them a little bit of a boost. They looked lifeless last week. And if you're going to look lifeless in New Orleans, you're going to get blown. You're going to get the doors blown off against especially being that you're the defending champs. But there's the case for Philadelphia here too. Certainly, the Eagles have been favored in every game this season. Now they're catching more than a touchdown. For a defending Super Bowl champ, no defending Super Bowl champ has been more than a touchdown in the last decade. It was 2009 since the last time we saw a point spread like this. And all right, you say, all right, well, Philly, the point spread's been wrong. The Eagles have been favored every game, and they're sub 500 team. They haven't lost a game by more than a touchdown this year. Their 7-point loss to Dallas was their worst defeat of the season. You go back last year, they weren't catching points like this. They weren't losing games by margin. So it's certainly a point spread that is out of whack with recent historical norms for the Philadelphia Eagles. And say what you will, the Saints defense has still shown vulnerability. Where they rank number 24. The Eagles offense, the back door could be open, even if New Orleans gets off to a strong start.
Great stat on that 2009 one, Teddy, about the Super Bowl champs.
I ran into it.
That was a good one, man. That's tough to find. We got.
That's why it was actually someone else. I mean, that's one of those things where I saw a headline somewhere. I mean, you know how it is because we do this full time. What do we do all day? We sit around and we click on links and click on articles and try to find reads and try to find information. And when you're clicking around all day, you click on a bunch of links, and that's one that I clicked on that somebody else did the work for me. So I did not double check those stats, but I do believe them. It's not what we normally see for defending champs.
Yeah, great find there, Teddy. And guys, remember the coupon code TEDDY9, TEDDY 9 for his play tonight in college football on ESPN2. Watch and win for just $9. Huge discount on that. Sportsmemo.com. We got last game up, Teddy. Tennessee at Indianapolis, 49.5 the total. Seeing -1 Indy laying at home.
Yeah, the money's poured in on Tennessee. Sharp money coming in on the Titans. No question. This is I'm going to call it a sharp square divide game. It's not like the public's all over Indy, but the professional bettors and the bigger bettors have made a clear statement in this game, and it has everything to do with Tennessee Titans defense. When you look at these two teams defensively, there's not much of a comparison, Drew, and that's putting it mildly. Just let me pull up the numbers real clear right here. 4-10, and of course Tennessee's defense is playing better. Indy's, not so much. But, for the season, you say, all right, there's only a 0.4 yards per play differential. For the run, you say, oh, they're even. I'm not buying either one of those numbers. Tennessee's played the much, much tougher schedule so far. Their pass defense is clearly better than Indy, and they're holding foes under 4 yards per carry. That Titans defense has been real. And, of course, with Mariota spent, excuse me, half the season playing with a wrap on his elbow.
Right.
Yeah, and the quote, he was like, "I can't feel my fingers." All right.
That's not good.
Bye, yeah, that's not easy for a quarterback who can't feel his fingers. After the bye, took the wrap off. He says, "Yeah, I could feel my fingers for the first time all year." And lo and behold, all of a sudden now Corey Davis is a downfield weapon, and all of a sudden the Titans' offense works. When you have a downfield pass catcher opening things up for Derrick Henry underneath to run the football, and Deion Lewis as well. It's an offense that's working, and it's a defense that's been good. So if you're saying, which team's on the come right now, it's the Titans. It's the team that people think, certainly the wise guys think, has the potential to make a second half run. You think of the woulda, coulda, shouldas with Tennessee. Remember they had the game against the Chargers in which they had them on the ropes and they didn't have them on the ropes, but they went for 2 and didn't make it. And of course, the game against Buffalo, they let go. We could be thinking about Tennessee very differently right now had they won those 2 1-point losses instead of losing them. Indy, 3 straight wins, and certainly the offense looked great. Andrew Luck hasn't been sacked in the last 4 games. He's only been sacked 10 times all year. But that offense got shut. They didn't score a point after halftime last week. And defensively, the Colts, there's vulnerability there. So again, tight game, fourth quarter. Who do you want, Luck or Mariota? I probably want Luck. But tight game in the fourth quarter, which defense do you trust to get a stop? Titans are the defense that clearly of the two that I trust to get a stop. Last week, Indy, a very fortuitous fumble recovery late in the ballgame that probably saved them from a minimum of OT and quite possibly from losing the game in regulation.
Teddy, do you think Luck's injured at all? I know we talked about Mariota being injured, but what about Luck? You think he's 100%?
Luck's looked great the last few weeks. Luck's had 3 straight games where he's completed better than 70% of his passes. And again, he hasn't been sacked in 4 games.
Yeah.
So when you're not taking his uniform was clean at the end of the Jaguars game last week. And, it says something about Jacksonville's defense, but it also says something about an Indy offensive line that wasn't highly regarded coming into the season that has played very well. And, of course, Marlon Mack has been a difference maker for that team. Since Mack, and I'm always like, running backs don't mean anything. Running backs don't mean anything. Mack means something to Indy, for sure. Since they've had him back, that offense has had balance. Before when he was hurt, there really wasn't a lot of balance. And Luck, is just still finding his rhythm after an extended injury absence.
Yeah, great quarterback. This is a good quarterback overall matchup with Mariota getting healthy as well. But guys, make sure to check out Teddy's page on sportsmemo.com. He's killing it in multiple sports. NFL, 70% on the sides, almost 60% in college football too. He's got that Friday night matchup. And coupon code Teddy9 at checkout to get it for just $9. We also got 7-day all access, 30-day all access, 90-day all access, huge discounts on sportsmemo.com. Teddy's a great choice. Teddy, anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down for the week in your segments?
Well, I just want to say, hey, and as we get into this crazy time of the holidays and Thanksgiving and all of that, just bet smart. Don't bet over your head. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose ever. But especially this time of year where there's so much going on, just, keep your wits about you. And if you need some help, the guys at Sports Memo will be happy to help you at a very reasonable price.
All right, Teddy. Well, great stuff, man. Best of luck to you this weekend, both college and NFL. Also NBA, college basketball, if you throw anything out there, too. So best of luck to you, Teddy. And we'll be right back with Robbie Vino to finish off the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast.
Open space, the final frontier. These are the explorations of scientists, sociologists, and AI technologists at Maynooth University. Our mission, to create autonomous drones, air traffic flight management, and seek out new solutions for our civilization. To boldly go where no drone has gone before. Experience knowledge set free at our open days, November 23rd and 24th.
Maynooth University. No bounds.